This is the Jimmy Anderson Show, the weekly report on Oregon State University basketball.
Hi everybody, I'm Bob Acamian along with the coach. Welcome to this final edition of the Jimmy Anderson Show for 1992. It has been a long haul, 31 games, and a lot of things have happened, and I'm sure a lot of people are saying to you, boy, you got to be glad that this is over, but I'm sure you have mixed feelings too about any season coming to an end.
Well, there's something always good happens in a season, and we had some great highlights during the season. To recap, the entire situation would take more than this program. So we feel under the circumstances we've had a good season. We're looking forward to the future. We have some bright things in the program coming up. So right now I guess it's just the final night and recapping the games, etc.
15-16 is the final mark. You went down to the Bay Area thinking you could get a split down there, and Kanan Chapman doesn't make the trip, Ray Ross doesn't go. Was it just too much and not enough horses?
Well, that's part of it. Playing on the road is very different than playing at home, and they were well prepared. And it became very physical games, and as you know from our history, when it becomes physical, our height and physical weight usually succumbs, and that's pretty much happened. Scott Haskins got beat down pretty well, and when we ended up, we didn't shoot the ball well enough to get wins on the road.
It started out with a game at California at the Harmon Arena on Thursday night against the Bears. Always a tough place to play. They've been staggering down the stretch, but I keep hearing that they really still had their heads up. The young guys were playing, and they really came out and played very hard in that game.
Well, they're playing for the future because they start 4 freshmen, and it's not like because they're having a bad record that they're depressed. Their whole thought is we're young, we're learning, we're going to be a power in the next 2 or 3 years. We're going to make an impact not only in the Pac-10 but in the NCAA playoffs. So they're playing with a lot of enthusiasm. The youth offers that, and I think they played a very good game against us.
Let's roll the tape. Thursday night from Berkeley, the Beavers and California, starting this one off and get up to a pretty good start. Carl and Kareem Anderson both pretty active this weekend, and Carl goes right to the hoop. Brent Berry's going to get loose here and go in for the jam, and it's pretty up and down the floor in the opening minutes.
Well, that's a nice extended slam. I didn't really think that he could extend himself and put it down like that. But Brent's been playing very well for us. His shooting has gone a little bit sour, but overall, his overall game has been steady throughout this run of good play that we've had at the end of the season.
And that was Brent there getting the pass into Scotty for the layup. Cal got a lot inside, and that was a little disappointing that the defense couldn't do a better job. Grigsby, very active, layup there, and he'll get the tip in here.
Well, they had a good game plan at us, and that is basically go against the people where we don't have height. And Grigsby and their inside people did a very nice job.
Kareem Anderson gets going from the outside. He would have a good night shooting the ball, and then the inside game gets going for Cal. Branham and Buckley both with tip-ins.
Well, their reserves came in and did an excellent job. The reserves, I think, were something like 9 for 12 from the floor from shooting. They also got good rebounds offensively. We got beat very badly on the backboards. But in essence, I think it was a physical game. We got worn down. We didn't shoot the ball well, and Cal played very well.
Yeah, in fact, for the game, their reserves 15 of 23. Rich Branham, Monty Buckley, Brendan Graves all came in and gave them good work. Get down towards the end of the first half here, and they're kind of hanging around with a 10-point lead.
But we made some very nice runs. We made a couple mistakes on the offense at the end. We had 19 turnovers, which is not characteristic of this team at this time of the season. And so with the mistakes, backboard play, poor shooting, I guess maybe in some ways we were lucky to come out with a loss. That could have been worse.
It's a rare instance there, a Pat Strickland blocked shot early in the second half. Won't see that a lot out there. And now Haskin and Kareem Anderson going to the hoop, keeping it within 10. But again, the inside play. Cal shot 16 layups in the game. And this is Murray, the big freshman who has taken over from Hendrick, who of course was hurt a week ago, out for the year. Murray is definitely the future for them.
Well, they shot the ball very well. We shot in the 30s, they shot in the 50s. And when you have that kind of differential in your shooting percentage, you're going to have problems, especially on the road.
Buckley there with off the turnover, scores the dunk, And now Kareem and Carl team up for a couple here. And in garbage time, California will extend the lead. There's Strickland going to the hoop. Cal wins it by 13 points, 79 to 66. Cal shot the ball around 50%, and you end up with a 52% night shooting the ball. And that's in the second half there.
Well, we shot 30, I think it was 35% for the game. So our bright spot was Kareem Anderson, his 24 points. He came off the bench. I didn't start him, and he just had a hot hand, and he's the one almost literally kept us in the game. He and Scott Haskins from the floor shot very well.
And you see Grigsby and Murray, the twosome, combining for the 24 points and the 15 boards. Cal dominant on the board. So it was on to Stanford and a weekend encounter with the Cardinal. Adam Keefe's final home game. That did not bode well. We'll show you Saturday's highlights when we come back.
The Jimmy Anderson Show continues.
Saturday afternoon, the Beavers headed down to the farm to take on the Stanford Cardinal. Very close game here earlier in the season, but hey, this is Adam Keefe's farewell appearance at Maples Pavilion, and you just might think they'd get a little fired up for that, and they did.
Well, he's been a monster man against Oregon State for 4 years, and it was kind of, I'm not saying it was nice playing against him in his last game, but it's going to be very nice to see him gone. I wish him the very best in his pro career, and I think he's going to be very, very successful. And probably the team he ends up with, I'll be rooting for.
All right, let's take a look at the highlights from Stanford, and it started with a big tribute to Adam Keefe, and I don't think it's shameful to admit it, but you like this guy. I mean, he's a classy kid, and he's always been that way.
Well, he's always been that way, and you know, we tried to recruit him out of high school, and we did have a relationship that has lasted over these years, and he's always been very friendly and cordial to me, and I think that certainly will remain so.
Well, again, Scott Haskin goes off against Stanford early on. You get up to a good offensive start in this game. Kareem Anderson does take it inside. We were talking about this. It's nice to see Kareem go to the hoop sometimes. And Charlie McKinney cans a couple of threes, so you get out of the box pretty well in this game.
Well, we have a good start. In fact, halfway through the first half, it's either tied or we're up one. But then all of a sudden the bottom fell out and they ripped us on the backboards, and Adam Keefe went to work. Here's
the third foul on Scotty Haskin. The second foul wasn't too hot either. This is that bump, and boom, 3 fouls, 10 minutes into the game, and you got to sit him down.
Well, I was a little excited on that because there is a tendency to favor, in my estimation, some of the better players in the league, and when we rely on Scott so much, rebounding and scoring, and a couple cheap fouls puts him on the bench, as I call cheap fouls. They're not really aggressive fouls, and it's a very aggressive game. So I certainly was venting myself on that situation.
And you see Keefe going off here, and he got a little break on that stutter step, maybe walks underneath, doesn't get the call, hits the layup. Here's Anderson blocking Hicks's shot down low, and then Williams gets into the game. He's kind of hot and cold for them, and he hits a couple of quick ones. Lawley, 2 good assists. Here's one in transition, and Stanford gets up 13.
Well, actually, once they broke the lead, other than our first lead there halfway through the first half, it was pretty much dominated by Keefe. He was on the backboards, he was on assists, he was on steals, he was on scoring. Everybody else we held pretty much in check, other than the All-American Adam Keefe.
Anderson from the outside. We start the second half. There's Kareem again with that bomb. And then Scotty gets inside. Get the lead down just to 10, and that's as close as it is early in the third.
Well, Scott had 2 big guys coming in on him, and Adam Keefe had his chances at Scott too. So in reality, you had 3 guys playing him very hard and strong the entire game, and he did not have much rest himself other than the foul trouble.
I think Stanford, because there weren't that many turnovers in this game, but Stanford converted off of every one, it seemed like.
And there's another steal by Adam Keefe.
Big slam.
Well, if you're going to get beat, I guess you're going to want to get beat by the best, and he's one of the top 5 best players in America.
Well, I got to say, you know, I get a vote on the Wooden Award this year, and I like Chris Leitner a lot, but I'm going to have a hard time not voting for Keefe.
Well, he does so much. He's second in assists, leading rebounder, leading scorer, second or first on steals on his team, and that says a lot because he does everything in the game.
So Adam goes out, setting the all-time Stanford single-season point-scoring record, 34 in his finale. Scott has a good game despite the foul trouble. Every time Scotty gets in foul trouble, he always gets back in late in the game, and he got his points this year.
Well, he's going to be hard to stop, and I think Coach Montgomery from Stanford made the statement after the game that Scott will be one of the premier players in the league next year, and it's always good to start with a big man that can rebound, score, and block shots.
Well, we're going to turn you into Dick Vitale here in a minute. We're going to pick the all-Jimmy team, the Pac-10 All-Stars, and also take a look ahead at the Pac-10 teams in this year's NCAA and NIT tournaments when we continue on The Jimmy Anderson Show.
The Jimmy Anderson Show continues.
Well, welcome back. You know, the Pac-10 coaches have voted for the 10-member Pac-10 All-Star team, also the 5-man freshman team, Player of the Year, Coach of the Year. But we have our own poll here on the Jimmy Anderson Show. It's the All-Jimmy team. We just picked our first 5, and probably no great surprises as we run through our choices for the best 5 players in the conference. So roll the tape, if you will, and we'll talk first about Harold Miner, who was a consensus choice as Player of the Year. The question is he going to the NBA?
Well, I'm not sure. I think he will be going, but who knows what he's going to do. He's a good one. Score, defense, does the whole game.
26.7 points, top scorer in the conference, gets 7 rebounds. The game went off for 43 against Nebraska. Played pretty well in this game against the Beavs down in L.A. And he can hit a shot with all kinds of pressure on him. It's amazing how he can put the ball in the hole.
Well, he has great elevation and he can shoot from all angles.
Okay, here's Adam Keefe. We're just talking about him from Stanford. Again, all-time single-season scoring leader. He averaged 25 points, 12 rebounds on a team where he had to do it all. Everybody in the conference knows he's coming every night. Still gets the job done.
Yeah, he's a player. He's the journeyman player of great magnitude because he not only does all the hard work, but he does all the good work, which is scoring.
And of course, we know that Adam is a senior, so he's definitely heading to the NBA. Probable lottery pick.
They're talking a top 10 pick, and wherever he goes, he's going to make a great impression because of his leadership, working qualities, and his talent.
All right, let's head down south. Don McLean from UCLA. Controversial at times, but he got the job done this year to the tune of 21 points and 8 rebounds a game.
All-time scorer at UCLA. A great feat in itself. Plays better defense, and I think is coming on as a player that does more than just shoots the ball. He's a pretty tough guy, and he's a clutch. He single-handedly took care of Arizona in their long streak this year, which is a feat in itself.
I was going to say, winning that game in Tucson, and that's when he had his big game. That really won the conference that night for UCLA.
That was the conference race right there.
So Don McLean, again, a sure shot at the NBA. The question now, how far can he take the Bruins in the playoffs? We'll talk about that. Here's Chris Mills at Arizona. This is a real ensemble team now, and Mills gets the job done more. You think about his defense and his rebounding.
Well, he does everything. He can go inside. He can shoot from the perimeter. He's a good passer. He plays hard defense. Against us, he had double figures rebounding.
Right, 16 in the game up here.
And I think he's their main leader. I think when things aren't going well, they look to him. He also gives a toughness to the program that always helps any team, especially when you're playing on the road.
Of course, Mills just a junior. Well, here's Scotty Haskin. You got to put him on this team. Like Keefe, he knew he had to do everything this year, and Scott kept producing.
Well, he emerged as a top scorer, top rebounder, and an all-time shot blocker for OSU. As he gets stronger and more experience, as stated earlier, we think that he's going to be one of the best players, if not the best player, in the Pac-10 next year.
And he had several different guards getting him the ball. It wasn't like a two-man game you ran out there.
No, he had good support in most games, but when it came down to it, every defense we played was stacked up against Scotty.
So Scott Haskin, as a junior, makes the All-Jimmy team. And we'll get one last look at Scotty here, putting one down. Now, for the Freshman of the Year. Tough choice. Pope of Washington was the choice of the coaches. I kind of like Mario Bennett, ASU's big man. Started slow, but from February on played very well, and he single-handedly beat Arizona in the Sun Devils' big upset of the Cats.
Well, he was not only great at the end of the season, he might have been one of the premier players in the entire conference, including seniors. He did not get a lot of starting roles early, and that's why I think the coaches voted for Pope in many cases, because he was an impact player from the start of the season, where Mario was about mid-season on.
But you can see what he can do in there, and going to be a big force for Bill Frieder in the years to come. Coach of the Year, everyone agrees on this. USC, the team, overachieving for what anybody picked them at, but they won the games they had to win. This is not a fluke that they're in postseason.
Well, he did an outstanding job. I think his enthusiasm ran off on the players. They played with a lot of charisma. He won a lot of close games, probably more so in this one year at USC than all his other years put together. I think it was 9 games he won right there, like 2 or 3 points.
All right, now let's talk about postseason play. The Pac-10 comes up with 4 teams in the NCAA tournament, 2 more in the NIT. We'll start with the top seeds now, just to set up the regions for you. UCLA got that #1 seed in the West. That's pretty important, but the West is still a tough region.
It's a tough region, but being #1 in your region is important because you draw one of the lesser teams out of the 64.
Let's move along now to show you who they're going to play in the first 2 rounds, possible opponents. They get to be in Tempe, familiar surroundings at Arizona State. A gimme first game, although you never know these days, but they're looking at Louisville or Wake Forest. Could be a tough second-round challenge.
I think the toughness of the second round will be surprising.
Let's move along now. USC, the #2 seed. They're going to Milwaukee. Happy birthday, George Raveling. They're only rated 44th in the power ratings. They lost some games maybe they shouldn't have, but they get a great gift here being #2.
Well, when you're selected as a 2 in a region, also you're going to get a lesser pick. The Louisiana they play good basketball, so don't take them lightly. But that second round, if they get through, Georgia Tech or Houston is going to be a tough draw.
All right, let's move along now. The 3rd team to qualify to the Pac-10 is Stanford. They're the #12 seed in Cincinnati in the Southeast region, and this is tough. Alabama, although Alabama just lost their center over the weekend, and then North Carolina most likely if they get past Alabama.
Well, I kind of pick Stanford as a Cinderella team. I think they have the star, they have a good supporting role, and they have experience from winning the NIT last year. So I think they might be the Cinderella team.
That's right, and this is basically the same bunch that won the NIT,
right,
too. All right, here's Arizona, and I think this is a tough draw for a 3 seed. They're in Atlanta, play a good East Tennessee team, and then you're looking at Michigan, possibly, or even a good Temple team in the second round.
But Arizona has the horses. They got the physical players. They have good depth at the guard, and I expect them to go a long ways.
All the predictions I've heard today as people are doing their brackets is Arizona, maybe the team of all the Pac-10s to reach the Final Four.
Well, I'm hoping more than that reach the Final Four because our conference was very, very difficult.
Here's the NITers. What a job for the Cougars. They get a home game against Minnesota. Kelvin Sampson, they're going to be whooping it up in Pullman. Arizona State, they can't use their home court, so they got to go on the road and play at Santa Barbara.
Both actually tough draws. Santa Barbara plays well at home. Minnesota is a lot tougher than people give them credit for.
So just in a brief word, and I know it's hard to go through 64 teams, who do you like to win it all right now? Who do you think can be there?
Well, I think Duke is still the favorite.
Right.
But I wouldn't count out any of several teams, including a couple of Pac-10 teams.
Arizona again, a lot of people think has a good run, and UCLA can be there. They've got all the horses.
Yes, they do.
All right, well, that's a look at postseason. We're going to take a final look at the '92 season and also our final look at the history of college basketball when we come back on The Jimmy Anderson Show.
The Jimmy Anderson Show continues.
Well, all season long we've been bringing you little vignettes on this 100th anniversary of the game of basketball. And today we close by asking one of the eternal questions. Can anybody duplicate the feat of the great UCLA teams of the 60s and the 70s? Let's join now this week's Minute in College Basketball History.
Bigger than ever. In the decade ahead, some new records will be set and some old ones broken. But there's one record that everyone agrees will never be broken. UCLA's 10 titles in 12 years and 7 in a row. Well, almost everyone.
If someone had said to you or to me or anyone else just before this happened that some school is going to win 10 NCAA championships in the next 12 years, 7 in a row at one time, what would you have said? What would I have said? What would anyone else have said that knows very much about basketball? It said it's impossible. It could never happen. It's no more impossible today than it was then.
But think of the thrills we would miss if no one ever tried. Basketball, 100 years old and more exciting than ever. And it started with a peach basket.
So that's it for this year. I don't know, could anybody win 10? That's a big order to win that many championships.
Well, we're going to
again.
start next year, start a string.
Well, good.
So maybe we'll get at it.
There you go. Hopefully we'll both be still talking about
Right.
it in 9 years.
Right.
Final thoughts of yours on 1992. Again, a lot of things happen, and you can do nothing but look ahead.
Well, if I was to talk about the season, I'd say, number one, we were hoping for better things. Under the circumstances, I thought we had a good year. It won't take too much back because I think what happened is that we got experience, we got some toughness into the program, we have a good nucleus back, we have good leadership coming back in our senior class. Scott Haskins has emerged as an impact player. If Chad Scott gets his academic act together, we're going to have another strong player on the inside. Our recruiting, I feel, is going very well at this point. So with the senior leadership, Scott, the young players coming on, let's not forget about some of the development of some of the young players, our freshmen, because they got lots of playing time on the floor. With that in mind, I think there's good things ahead for Oregon State basketball.
A quick look at the recruiting trail. We got about a month before you have to start signing on the dotted line. What positions are we looking at most?
Well, our statistics show, and we'll bear it out, in almost every game we need some big people. We need some height and we need some physical size. And so our priority, our assistant coaches, Freddie Boyd and Andy McCluskey, have been on the road endlessly looking for junior college or high school inside players that can come in and help us at that position.
All right, and of course that's always a tough road, and we'll hear more about that down the road here.
Well, we hope that in April, when the signing time comes, we have some very, very proud names that we can announce to our fans.
That'll do it for the 1992 season. Thanks for being so gracious with us. I know you've had a lot of other things on your mind. It's been good of you to always be here on time to sit down with us every week to talk the game.
Well, it's been fun, and it seems like each year it gets a little easier. I'm not really prone to a lot of this kind of media exposure, but it's been fun.
All right, that'll do it for the 1992 edition of the Jimmy Anderson Show. I'll see you on the radio. Goodbye.